History in Canada is being made in front of our eyes. I think less than 6 or 7 months ago, you had Canadian Parliament House Speaker Anthony Rota invited a Nazi member into Parliament, and everybody gave a standing ovation. That was, I think, on a Friday or Saturday. It took until Monday for the House of Commons to resume, Parliament to resume, where he delivered a speech resigning and then continued question period, and that was the last time we've seen him, at least publicly, in Parliament. Fast forward 6-7 months to now. Well, till a few days ago, where the new House Speaker, Greg Fergus, who went into this position with already ethics violations on his card, on his resume, has somehow gotten this position, maybe because he's a liberal. There's a lot of speculations as to why he got this position when there were other candidates. He's found himself in the history, in the history books, in history in the making. He's made history, I don't know how else to say it, where he ejected unlawfully the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre. Not only did that ejection, was that not warranted, but what's like very much history in the making is the solidarity of the Conservative Party getting up and walking out that front door going, we're done for the day, that's it, that's all. Absolutely insane. And in fact, Pierre wasn't the first person to get ejected. There was a female Conservative MP who also got ejected moments before for, saying something that apparently she shouldn't have said. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage everyone to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. And just a soft reminder that this is indeed Mr. Sunshine Extra, and I would super duper appreciate it if you guys showed this channel the same love as you do the other channels. We're going to be taking a look at Rachel Thomas, who is doing basically a point of order after everything's happened. The House is empty. She's almost one-on-one with the House Speaker going, you're covering shit up. This is unlawful. This is like some breaking news, folks. Absolutely insane what's going on. So buckle up. Stick around for the full video if you can, because you're not going to want to miss this. And without further ado, here we go.
Speaker, I rise on a point of privilege today regarding a significant discrepancy between what was published in the Blues and what was published in Hansard of yesterday. The question of privilege that I raise also has to do with how I was treated by the Speaker of this House and how I was further portrayed publicly. The discrepancy between the Blues and what was published in the Hansard is the omission of 2 words, 2 very important documented words. An exchange between the Speaker and me during question period yesterday. The Blues recorded the following statement by the Speaker. I quote directly, "If the Honourable Member for Lethbridge has problems with the Chair, she should challenge the Chair in a respectful way. But as the Honourable Member knows, challenging the Chair is against the rules of this House. I ask the Honourable Member to please withdraw her remarks." To which I replied, and rose in my space, to say this, quote, "Mr. Speaker, I stated that the Chair is acting in a disgraceful manner. I withdraw." In the Hansard recording, 2 words are missing. The words, "I withdraw."
Wow.
That said, it should be noted that it is reported in Hansard that at least one member did point out to the Speaker that these words, in fact, were spoken. It says under the heading, "An honourable other member," it says the following, quote, "She withdrew it." In the audio recording, many other members were heard drawing attention to this fact, asking for the Speaker to do the same. These words, Mr. Speaker, are significant because they demonstrate that I complied with the Speaker, your request to withdraw. It demonstrates that my withdrawal was not conditional, but rather it was proper and textbook. Therefore, it ought to have been accepted. Yet, I was kicked out of this place for the remainder of the day, as if I hadn't withdrawn those words, or to put it another way, as if Hansard recording of the event was accurate and true, when in fact, Mr. Speaker, we know it is not. If you were to check the audio recording, it clearly picked up the 2 words that are also recorded in the Blues. It is worth noting that in Chapter 24 of Bosch and Gagnon, it states, quote, "The chamber is equipped with cameras operated from a control room invisible from the floor of the House. The recording of the proceedings is governed by guidelines intended to preserve the concept of the electronic Hansard, as adopted by the House. The two words, Mr. Speaker, that were edited out of the Hansard essentially rewrote history, making the actions and procedure followed by the Speaker, you, appear proper and mine improper. As you know, I was removed from the chamber for the remainder of the day, and I was prohibited from being able to participate in debate or vote on behalf of the constituents who have sent me here. Therefore, the constituents of Lethbridge were robbed of having a presence and a voice in the House of Commons, their democratic right. It was especially egregious given the fact that there was a scheduled vote immediately following question period that day. If you go to the House of Commons site, the blues, unfortunately, are no longer available. Interesting. Which makes a person curious as to why. If you attempt to access the blues today, you will get this message, quote, "Blues are available while the House is in session until the Hansard is published." The blues are taken down. Luckily, though, Mr. Speaker, for you, I kept a copy of those blues that were sent to me yesterday at the end of the day, and I have them available to submit to you here.
Interesting.
And I will just point out that if we flip through them, on this page here, you can see my words are kindly highlighted for you.
Wow.
Holy crap.
Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, we are fortunate to also have access to the audio recording, which still exists and does not lie.
It's real funny, isn't it? Yeah.
She is
Hilarious.
At pages 1228 to 1229 of the third edition of House of Commons Procedure and Practice, it states, quote, "The unedited in extenso transcripts of the debates at one time produced on blue paper continue to be known as the blues. Parliamentary publications staff send to each member who speaks in the House the transcription of the member's intervention. The blues are also published on the House of Commons internal website. The availability of the blues on the House of Commons internal website permits members and their authorized delegates to use the webpage or email to submit suggested changes for parliamentary publications editorial staff to consider. Members may suggest corrections to errors and minor altercations to the transcription, but may not make material changes to the meaning of what was said in the House." I'm going to read that part again because it's really important. They may not make material changes to the meaning of what was said in the House. So it's interesting then that the blues said one thing, but Hansard said another, and I did not ask for those changes to be made. The third edition of the House of Commons Procedure goes on to say this: "It is a long-standing practice of the House that editors of the debates may exercise judgment as to whether or not changes suggested by members constitute the correction of an error or a minor alteration. The editors may likewise alter a sentence to render it more readable, but may not go so far as to change its meaning. Editors must ensure that the debates are a faithful reflection of what was said. Any changes made, whether by the members or editors, are for the sole purpose of improving the readability of the text, given the difference between the spoken and written word." End quote.
This is the thing about conservatives, and it's driving liberals like bonkers, is they are doing everything by the book. Yeah, Pierre has these zingers from time to time, and yeah, okay, they walked out, and that wasn't necessarily how Parliament should conduct themselves. But when it comes to what you're actually allowed to do and not allowed to do, the conservatives have sometimes put on a little bit of theatrical show, but everything is still done by the book. The liberals are overstepping, and stuff like this that goes against the Charter of Rights, that goes against the actual system, that shows high levels of corruption. Dude, this is bad. This is bad for Greg Fergus. Like, he could find himself unemployed faster than he actually got this job. This is very, very severe. Because now it makes a mockery of our entire system, especially if they keep him in. They almost have to let him go off of principle alone.
Clearly, Mr. Speaker, I did not suggest any changes to the officials with regard to Hansard. Bosch and Gagnon state that the editors can make alterations but cannot make changes that go so far as to change the meaning of what was said. In the case I raised today, the significant difference in meaning without these two words, I withdraw, being published in Hansard obviously is very significant. On page 1229, it goes on to say, when a question arises in the House as to the accuracy of the record, it is the responsibility of the Speaker to look into the matter. In this case, the edit, otherwise known as the deletion of two very significant words, is far more noteworthy than simply improving the readability of a sentence. I believe you'll agree. The justification used by the Speaker to admonish and remove me from the chamber does not match the evidence presented in the blues and by the audio recording that you may also access. The Speaker's actions do, however, fit very nicely with the altered text published in the Hansard. On page 82 of Bosch and Gagnon, it describes a list of items to be considered a contempt, and on that list is, quote, falsifying or altering any papers belonging to the House, end quote. Ooh. At page 248 of Joseph Magnon's Parliamentary Privilege in Canada, second edition, it states, quote, the House of Commons of Canada remains prepared to entertain legitimate questions of privilege where false or perverted reports of debates or proceedings are published, end quote. While this passage refers to inaccurate media reports of what was published in Hansard, it is no less offensive, and in fact perhaps more offensive, that this happened right here in the House of Commons. At pages 81 to 83 of Bosch Gagnon, it states, and I quote, throughout the Commonwealth, most procedural authorities hold that contempts, as opposed to privileges, cannot be enumerated or categorized. Speaker Sauvé explained in a 1980 ruling, while our privileges are defined, contempt of the House has no limits. When new ways are found to interfere with our proceedings, so too will the House, in appropriate cases, be able to find that a contempt of the House has occurred. Just as it is not possible to categorize or to delineate every incident which may fall under the definition of contempt, it is also difficult to categorize the severity of contempt. Contempts may vary greatly in their gravity, matters ranging from minor breaches of decorum to grave attacks against the authority of Parliament may be considered as contempts. End quote. Mr. Speaker, it cannot be debated or disputed that someone deliberately removed two words from the blues.
No.
And that these two words have great significance. It cannot be debated or disputed that it therefore changed the meaning of the events yesterday and the way that they would be interpreted, thus resulting in an inaccurate negative reflection of me, which was then broadcasted to my constituents and to all people across Canada.
Wouldn't that be like a form of slander and defamation?
This inaccurate account of events resulted in my wrongful dismissal from this place by you, thus robbing me of the right to represent the constituents of Lethbridge here in the House of Commons and to cast a vote on their behalf. Again, robbing them of their democratic right.
This is the thing that turns a lot of people off from Parliament, is this whole speech can be boiled down into 30 seconds. Hey, Speaker, you took some shit out of the notes. You took some things out of the actual translation. You shouldn't have. It robbed me from what is my democratic right as a federally elected MP, and this is corrupt, and this needs to be addressed immediately. Will you apologize or will you resign? pick or choose, right? Yes or no. Like, it's that simple, but it's being dragged out because it's going through the whole charade, the whole orchestra of making it legit, right? But that's kind of how everything can be wrapped up. And that's a lot of people get turned off by politics, by our politics at least, because of that, because things get dragged out. But it is what it is. It's politics is partly stamina as well.
Which leads to another aspect of privilege, and that is improper reflections upon a member. On October 20th, 1966, the member for Edmonton Strathcona rose on a question of privilege that came out of an article in Le Droit of October 14th by Marcel Pepin. He argued that the article imputed an improper motive to him and was a gross distortion of the facts of something that occurred in the House. The Speaker ruled the matter to be a prima facie question of privilege on October 24th, 1966. In my case, it is the Hansard that has recorded a gross distortion of the facts, an act that can be substantiated by the blues and the audio recordings of the procedures I referred to from yesterday, April 30th. I will give another example. On March 22nd, 1983, Speaker Sauvé ruled on a question of privilege relating to false and libelous accusations against the member for Lincoln that had been published in the Montreal Gazette. The Speaker felt that a reflection upon the reputation of an honourable member is a matter of great concern to all members of the House. And the Speaker said at that time, quote, "It places the entire institution under a cloud, as it suggests that among the members of the House there are some who are unworthy to sit there. An allegation of criminal or other dishonourable conduct inevitably affects the member's ability to function effectively while the matter remains unresolved." End quote. Mr. Speaker, the matter I am addressing today is grave in nature and calls for your utmost attention. In summary, the matter I am bringing to your attention today has three components. 1, the Speaker's ruling to expel me from the House. 2, the improper alteration of the Hansard. And 3, the inaccurate reporting as to the role that I played here in this place. Mr. Speaker, if you rule this matter to be a prima facie question of privilege, I am prepared to move the appropriate motion today.
I thank the honourable member. I thank the honourable member from Lethbridge for raising this matter of question of privilege. I do encourage her, please, to share all the information that she would like to have the speakership to evaluate, and certainly we will take this.
Yeah, bye-bye, Greg.
I see that the honourable member from from Burnaby, New Westminster Burnaby, is rising on the same question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is related to the question that I raised last night, just prior to adjournment. You'll recall the ruling from former Speaker, the member from Regina Capel, who is now the Conservative House Leader, dating back to September 24th, 2014. And I'll read it for the record again. Another of our time-honored traditions is that of respect for the office of Speaker. And our procedural Bible, O'Brien and Bosca, page 313, states that reflections on the character or actions of the Speaker, an allegation of bias, for example, could be taken by the House as breaches of privilege and punished accordingly. And the Speaker at the time, the member for Regina Capel, the current Conservative House Leader, said, continued by saying, "I wish to conclude with an appeal to members on all sides. Needless to say, the kind of unsavory language or expression that we heard yesterday does little to assist the chair in managing question period proceedings. And I urge all members to be judicious in the expressions that they choose to use." Now, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, yesterday, I raised the issue of the tweet that was put out by the member from Lethbridge, who said the following: "How did partisan hack," referring to the Speaker, "respond? This is inappropriate, a very clear contravention of all of..."
I thank the honourable member and the opposition House opposition whip. The honourable member is clearly rising on, not on the issue that was raised by the member of Lethbridge, but on a point of order that he is raising.
He recognized him, and he asked to speak on the same question. It even says it up on the screen.
That was, I think that was an, if we can hold on for a second.
This is getting ridiculous. I mean, I think that Greg Fergus should be held accountable with what he did, what he said, and how he conducted himself. And time will only tell how this process kind of unravels. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Should Greg resign? Should he be fired? Should he stay? Looking forward to reading the comments once the video is posted. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where we're going to end today's video. On your way out, I'd like to encourage you guys to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.